Can Zhen Huan, blessed with both beauty and talent, truly outshine all in the imperial harem and enjoy everlasting favor? Feeling bored after the evening meal, I picked up my needlework and stitched a couple of stitches on a spring mountain scene when Pear came over to pour some tea and said, "Your Majesty, are you still embroidering? It's harmful to both eyes and mind. Let your servants handle it." Just then, Huan Bai came in to change the fresh flowers on the table and quickly said, "Miss, perhaps drink less tea. Jin Shi Auntie has instructed that tea can cause unrest to the fetus, so it's best to drink less." She also suggested, "Why not have some nourishing soups, bird's nest, honey or dew instead?" Pear's face turned red and she smacked her forehead, mumbling, "Look at me being so forgetful. Auntie did warn us." She also instructed the small kitchen not to use spices like fennel, Sichuan pepper, cinnamon, chili or 5-spice powder in the dishes, and to limit the use of alcohol and avoid deep-fried foods. I smiled and said, "Jin Shi is perhaps being overly cautious. A little bit here and there should be harmless." Huan Bai replaced my drink with warm honey water, carefully ensuring it was at the right temperature before handing it to me, saying, "Miss has been favored for almost a year before conceiving. Not only are the Emperor and the Empress Dowager treasuring it immensely, but we in our palace are also being extremely careful, all hoping for Miss to safely give birth to the little prince." Huan Bai then smiled and said, "Miss should focus on resting well, especially with your injured left hand. Leave these needleworks to the palace maids. Besides, embroidering this isn't exactly suitable for viewing." Hearing her sincere advice and remembering how she had conducted herself without duplicity since I admonished her, and having secretly observed her for a while without noticing anything inappropriate, I gradually began to trust her with some tasks and let down my guard. Originally, embroidering the spring mountain scene was meant to cultivate a serene mind, but I no longer felt in the right frame of mind for it, so I said, "It's fine not to embroider this. Just lying around can be terribly dull, though." Huan Bai chuckled and suggested, "If Miss finds it boring, why not tailor some small clothes and embroider some patterns? The little prince can wear them once he is born." Lu Zhu joined in, "Right, it's time to start making them. When Mrs. Belly grows bigger in 6 or 7 months, it will be harder to move around." Their suggestions excited me, and I immediately ordered someone to fetch some soft fabric from the storeroom, and we sat down under the lamp to start tailoring the clothes. Waking up early to the chirping of orioles outside the window, Chun'er came to see me, and we had breakfast together before sitting down to chat about family matters. Chun'er said, "I heard that when it's time for the birth, the mother's family can come to the palace to accompany her. Is that true?" I replied, "Yes, the emperor will issue a decree when it's the 8th month."
Chun'er sighed softly.
She was always simple-minded and straightforward, spending her days playfully like a child. It was surprising to see her suddenly become contemplative. Fiddling with her fingers, she said, "I haven't seen my mother for a long time. You're lucky. Once the baby in your belly grows bigger, you'll get to see your mother." Seeing Chun'er's longing gaze, my heart was touched, and I was reminded of the kindness of my own parents, which made me feel emotional. Chun'er, 2 years younger than me and the youngest in her family, had entered the palace at 13 and hadn't seen her family since, so her sadness was understandable. Jin Shi, noticing the melancholy in both Chun'er and me and not wanting me to feel upset, quickly tried to cheer us up. In the future, like our empress, when Chun'er conceives, she will also be able to see her lady mother. If Chun'er is doing well in the palace, her lady mother can rest assured at home, right? Jin Shi smiled and added, "Besides, the food in the palace is incomparable to anywhere outside." As she cheerfully had Pinner bring in some steaming milk and water chestnut flour cakes. Chun'er might have continued her sighs, but the sight of delicious food immediately distracted her, and all her troubles seemed to vanish. I actually envied Chun'er's simplicity. The presence of good food was enough to make her forget all worries. This must be what is meant by having a pure heart in the books. Overthinking always leads to unnecessary trouble. I smiled at her and said, "I heard from your maid Chuiyu that you like water chestnut flour cakes, so I had the kitchen prepare some for you. I even had them add milk to make them extra soft. Try them and see if you like them." Chun'er eagerly agreed and quickly devoured a plateful, still reluctantly licking her fingers afterwards, claiming, "These are much tastier than the ones made in my quarter." Looking at her fondly, I said, If you like them, I can have the kitchen prepare them for you every day. But don't overeat.
Chun beamed in agreement.
She then stared at my belly for a while before cautiously touching my abdomen and asking, Zhen sister, is there really a baby inside your belly? I laughed and said, yes, there's a very small baby inside, who hasn't even grown teeth or hands yet. Chunner seemed amazed. That small? And hurriedly removed her protective fingernail covers. I asked, what are you doing? Chunner, holding her chin, explained, the baby is so small, I was afraid my nail guards might hurt him. I almost burst out laughing, managing to control myself before saying, how could that be? Since you like him so much, how about I make him your nephew? Chunner's long eyelashes fluttered, and her eyes sparkled with joy as she asked, really? Can I be his aunt? She eagerly took out a piece of flawless white jade from around her neck, saying, then I'll place the betrothal gift here first. From now on, he has to call me aunt. I responded, indeed, the gift is accepted, so there's no going back on it. Touching my belly, I added, look, little one, how much your aunt loves you. You don't even have a shadow yet, but she's already sent a gift. Chunner, resting her head on my belly, affectionately spoke to the baby. Little treasure, you must grow quickly. When you're big enough, your aunt will give you all the tastiest treats. Jade bean cake, chestnut cake, dual-flavored bean cake, red bean rolls, lychee delicacies, braided peach strips, crispy walnuts, date rings, and pear pastries. Those are the tastiest things in the world, and your aunt will let you have them all, not fighting with you for a single bite. You'll grow into a chubby little treasure. I joined in the fun, saying, and guess what? Your aunt will have many more little treasures to keep you company in the future. Won't that be fun? Chunner stamped her foot, laughing and scolding. Sister, you're so cheeky, making fun of me. Then she ran off after lifting the curtain. I thought she had gone for good, but then she peeked her head back in, her face flushed red. After hesitating for a while, she timidly asked in a very soft voice, if I have 7 or 8 children to play hide and seek with sister's child, would that be enough? I couldn't hold back my laughter any longer, and in doing so, I accidentally spilled a bowl of honey water over my dress, soaking both my dress and the floor. Jin Shi, always composed, smiled and came to help me change, while Xiao Yunzi was laughing so hard he had to squat on the ground, and Lu Zhu was holding her belly, with everyone else turning away to hide their laughter. Trying to contain my laughter, I said, that's more than enough. We couldn't handle any more. Seeing us in such a state, Chunner knew she had misspoken and blushed even more before running off again. In the warm midday sun, I decided to lean back on the couch by the window in the West Warm Pavilion and read a book to pass the time. Covered with a light lake green silk blanket and lying on a velvet soft carpet, the room was cozy and warm. The mosquito net, held up by silver hooks, displayed a scene of blooming lotus flowers, and the couch was piled with soft goose down pillows embroidered with mandarin ducks. After reading for a while, I dozed off on the bed and had a sweet sleep, waking up in the late afternoon. I could vaguely hear Xiao Lianzi talking to someone outside, and it sounded like Wen Shichu. The pavilion was empty at the moment, the window half open, allowing the fragrant evening breeze to gently blow in, making the mosquito net ripple like water. I was too lazy to get up and just turned to face the window, continuing to lie down and listening to the conversation outside. I heard Xiao Yunzi saying, I apologize for the inconvenience, sir. My mistress is currently napping and hasn't woken up yet. May I know what brings you here? When Shichu replied, it's no trouble at all. I'll just wait here. I came specially to pay my respects upon hearing the good news of Her Highness's pregnancy. Xiao Yunzi said, thank you for waiting, sir. I'll take my leave now. There was a moment of silence outside. Just as the dim light of sunset illuminated the window, I suddenly heard soft footsteps approaching. The light at the window dimmed, and I slightly opened my eyes to see Wen Shichu's figure casting a shadow over the window. He was looking intently at me through the double layers of window screens and mosquito net, silent and motionless. Under the shadow of his eyelashes, it seemed as if I was still asleep, and he too believed I was in deep slumber. After a moment, his hand silently reached towards the window screen. He didn't come closer or lift the screen to peek at my sleeping face, but just stood silently, looking at me with a tender gaze, although the mosquito net obscured his view. Feeling somewhat awkward yet reluctant to get up and scold him, I wanted to maintain a good relationship for future interactions. After all, he had treated me well. In the year since I entered the palace, without his careful attention, my life wouldn't have been as comfortable. However, I didn't want to owe too much in terms of affection. His unrequited feelings couldn't be reciprocated with the same intensity. Naturally, I sought to repay his service with honor and wealth, hoping not to waste his dedication to me. In response to Wen Shichu's silent concern, I inadvertently knocked a purple jade ruby from beside the pillow onto the floor with a clatter, breaking the jade and causing him to retreat in surprise. She hurried into the warm pavilion upon hearing the noise, saw that I was unharmed and asleep, and then cleared up the broken jade before leaving. After a long silence outside, I called out, "Who's there?" Only to have Huan come in to assist me, stuffing a couple of goose-down pillows behind my back, and informed me that Wen Shichu had just visited. Feigning surprise, I asked, "Why didn't you invite him in?" Huan explained with a smile that they thought I was still sleeping and someone from Kunju Hall had come to call him for checking on Shen Ronghua's health, as it was time for her routine checkup, and Wen Shichu, being appointed by the emperor to attend to her, couldn't leave his post lightly. I acknowledged the importance of his responsibilities and inquired if he had come for a specific reason. Huan presented 2 prescriptions that Wen Shichu had prepared. Knowing about my facial injury, he had thoughtfully provided remedies in case scars were left behind, detailing the use of pearl powder in spring and jade hairpin powder in autumn, with a note on mixing these with dew from morning lotus leaves for better effect. Another prescription was for a medicinal pill made from strong, dust-free mugwort collected during the Dragon Boat Festival, which after being processed, dried and ground into a fine powder, could be used to repair the skin and diminish scars, with jade or deer horn pestles recommended for their additional skin-nourishing and scar-removing benefits. I also inquired about Shen Ronghua's condition, to which Huan replied that according to Wen Shichu, she was well but still confined to bed rest. After reviewing the thoughtful prescriptions, I appreciated Wen Shichu's concern and planned to have Xiao Lianzi prepare the medicines according to the prescriptions later in the evening. Huan agreed and then left the room. On the 26th of March, deemed the best day of the first half of the year according to the almanac, Consort Feng and I were to be officially titled. Early in the morning, before dawn had even broken, Yingxin Hall was bustling with activity. Palace maids and eunuchs carried gift boxes and ceremonial items, moving back and forth. The stone path in front of the hall was covered with a long red carpet, prepared especially for the phoenix-carved jade carriage used in the consort's title ceremony, which waited quietly in front of the Tongli Palace gate. I sat in front of the dressing table, freshly washed and groomed, as Lu Jisho, a eunuch from Xianling's side, personally delivered the garments and jewelry to be worn for the title ceremony. According to protocol, the empress would wear a Lingyun bun, consorts a Wang Xianjiu bun, noble consorts a Shanwan bun, and other palace concubines a Ruital bun, while palace maids wore a Fengsheng bun. I, therefore, had my hair styled into the dignified and modest Shanwan bun. The task of styling my hair was entrusted to Madame Qiao, a seasoned palace matron, who with a smile commented, "Your Highness has such a high forehead, the highest among all the ladies I've served. Now with your pregnancy, it's clear your blessings are profound and unmatched." It was a common belief among the women in the palace that a high forehead was a sign of great fortune. Feeling even more pleased by her flattering words, I rewarded her generously. The jewelry set included 6 trees, among which were a pair of gold-chiseled red coral fu character hairpins, a pair of Tianbao Qingyi hairpins, and the most striking, a pair of gilded, filigree, enameled, bead-rotating phoenix step shakes. Step shakes were exclusive to noble consorts and above, though Xianling had gifted me one earlier. Only today could I officially wear it. The step shakes were adorned with openwork gold and silver flowers, embellished with pearls, lapis lazuli, bats and green jade for decoration, and fine jade beads strung along, hanging down to the earlobes. The Tianbao Qingyi hairpins had exquisitely crafted 6-petaled palace flowers, delicate jade beads, and long slender pendants that gently swayed. Additional decorations included a pair of ruby string bead flowers, a pair of enameled coral and turquoise gourd flowers, and a pair of Fenguji Rui hairpins. Once dressed, I turned my head slightly and couldn't help but remark, "It's so heavy." Lu Zhu joked from the side, "You're just being titled as a noble consort now and already find the jewelry heavy. What will you do when you become the imperial noble consort?" I heard that they wear up to 16 hairpins just on their head during the title ceremony. I turned around and chided her playfully. What nonsense are you talking about? Madame Chow laughed and added, what the young lady said is quite right. After your highness gives birth to a prince, who doubts you'll be titled as imperial noble consort one day? Who in the palace doesn't know the emperor favors you the most? I simply smiled in response, stretching out my arms to allow them to dress me in the ceremonial attire. The robe was a beautiful shade of rouge red, embroidered with auspicious grass and wild geese, with wide sleeves made from double silk gauze, trailing on the ground. The robe was adorned with gold embroidery and luxurious pearl tassels, and featured an exceedingly long pattern of a 7-colored phoenix that extended from the front over the shoulder to the tail of the skirt, spreading out like clouds. The cuffs were intricately embroidered with gold thread and pearls, creating a wide band of pearl-bordered brocade, revealing the tips of my fingers. A lavish green and red sash was tied around my waist, and a silver and vermilion mirror flower brocade was wrapped around my arms. Looking at my reflection in the mirror, I saw a figure of solemn majesty and elegance. The ceremony for conferring the title of noble consort was different from past ceremonies. Usually, a simple imperial edict or verbal command from Xianling was sufficient for lesser titles. However, noble consorts and above held a formal and noble status within the palace, requiring a sacrificial offering to the ancestral temple, the bestowal of a golden certificate, and a golden seal. The golden seal for the 4 top-ranking consorts was known as the Golden Treasure. The ancestral temple was only open for heaven sacrifices, after-death ceremonies, and major festivals. For the title ceremony of consorts on ordinary days, a symbolic offering in the palace's ancestral temple sufficed. At the auspicious hour I knelt behind consort Feng, participating in the solemn and respectful sacrificial offering at the ancestral temple. The ceremony was conducted with eloquent 4-character couplets by the court officials, followed by the presentation of the golden certificate covered with a red silk embroidered with golden patterns, and the golden seal with a phoenix knob in a brocade box. Consort Feng and I both exclaimed "Long live the Emperor" 3 times before proceeding to the Zhaoyang Hall to pay respects to the Emperor and Empress. The Empress, sitting upright next to Xianling, wore a purple-gold phoenix robe with wide sleeves and a tight collar, her garment's edges revealing a hint of a gold-red silk undergarment. Her long apricot yellow skirt embroidered with moonlight patterns added a unique charm, complemented by a serene flow of white silk brocade embroidered with apricot yellow peony patterns that graced the floor, enhancing her noble and dignified demeanor. The Empress spoke solemnly. Consort Feng and noble consort Zhen have been blessed by the heavens to carry on the imperial lineage. It is hoped that you will cultivate virtue, maintain harmony within the palace, serve diligently, and ensure the continuity of descendants. Consort Feng and I bowed 3 times, respectfully replying, "We are grateful for the Empress's teachings and are overjoyed." Looking up, I caught Xianling's warm gaze. Dressed in a bright yellow robe embroidered with 9 dragons, the robe's hem featuring a continuous pattern representing boundless territories. Our eyes met, and a shared understanding sparked a mutual smile, warming my heart.
Follow us to avoid getting lost and enjoy endless exciting stories. For more content, please go to the Story Wall homepage to view more exciting novels.